So now we have two other characters. We have Stagbuster and Beatbuster, Jay and Jen. Now, the weird here's the weird thing about it. So Jin is the human, and he 13 years ago, like the others, was transported into the subdimension. But he's able to communicate through an avatar system. Now, this is the same type of system that Enter and Escape, the two villains, which I will talk about eventually, do. They're able to project themselves from the subdimension into the human world, basically as digital copies, not necessarily as real people. Enter and Escape are pure data, so they're just projecting from the subdimension in that regard. But Jin is a real person, and he's projecting his physical body onto the real world while he's basically unconscious in stasis in a way. Um, the Avatar thing is a little confusing to me in some aspects because it is explained, but isn't explained as far as okay. Well, I mean, here's my point. So Jin, his whole thing is he has this avatar, and he's supposed to be like 40 years old, but he looks like he did when he was 13 years prior, basically. And it's the big mystery: what's going on with him and stuff? Weren't you in the subdimension? All this, but it's revealed he's just a digital copy. If that is the case, I mean, this isn't like James Cameron's Avatar. This is projecting data. Then why is it such a bother if he was to get attacked or hurt or even die? Because they treat him like they would any other person. But consider the doctor from Voyager, who's able to project himself but really can't be killed, can't really be harmed by particle weapons and things of that nature. But Jin can. So what is it about the avatar system that basically says you can destroy the avatar and that destroys the person as well? It would almost seem to me it wouldn't be effective because think of when you play a game like Warcraft or you play Second Life or anything like that. It's almost the same concept, at least the way I view it, is you're taking your digital persona, place it into this world which you can't yourself get to, and doing all these actions. And what happens if you die? Well, you restart the game from where you left off and you continue on, basically. So why doesn't Jin do that? I don't understand why it's such a big deal. Yeah, it adds for drama and everything, but if he's a digital copy, why did you give him that weakness, basically? And it doesn't seem like that's a weakness for Enter or Escape, because it does seem... Now, they kind of retcon this a little bit towards the end, but it was always my idea that they are just projections for somebody on the other side so they can move around. And if you destroyed Enter or Escape, it's not any great loss. It's just they got to take time to make a new avatar to go ahead and come back. Again, at the end of the series, that's kind of retconned a little bit with what's happening to Escape and what's going on with the Messiah cards, and I'll get into that here later. I'm going to save the villains for later because I really want to talk a lot about them. It is kind of confusing in that regard because it just is. They're just not really explained. Maybe I'm missing something there, but that always just kind of bothered me about Jin. But Jin as a character overall is kind of interesting. I always like the self-proclaimed geniuses who really are geniuses and just like, hey, I'm a genius. Don't worry about it. Those characters are always a lot of fun. I thought he was fun here. Now, the guy who plays him was Magi Yellow over in Magi Ranger. Now, I did not actually see Magi Ranger. I did see Bokanger versus Super Sentai, in which he made an appearance. I didn't know that was the same character, so I was really surprised until I was told that. But from what I was seeing and all that, he was a good actor, good character. I like the character, somebody who is cocky and sure of himself and all that. That's not the Red Ranger, that is the Gold Ranger and all that. But of course, they always have to do that thing where, yeah, I'm part of the team, I'm not really part of the team, but yes, I am part of the team. They always do that every season. And I really like that. Something about his character that I really do wish that they could have done more is it in a couple of flashback scenes, he talks about Yoko's mother and how wonderful she was and everything. And it just seemed to me that there was a relationship between Jin and Yoko. And I almost wonder if Jin is Yoko's father. I know it's complete, as Professor Morgan would say, that's called wuss, wild, unfounded speculation. Uh, yes, I quoted you, Professor Morgan. Um, but it just seems like they were going to establish that they had some sort of romantic chemistry, and that Jin was almost looking after Yoko. There was one particular episode where they were fighting Escape, and they were using the prototypes for their bow laser armor. And he was really trying to go ahead and protect her and stuff, and he was having flashbacks about the mother and all that. And I would have just liked to have seen, "I was in love with your mother," and if the story was like, "It was because of me she was over there, it was because of me she was put in danger. I want her to come that night because I was wanting to see her," and stuff like that. "It's all my fault that you're in this situation." That would have been a good backstory, I think. That would have been great if there was a pre-established relationship, because what it sounds like to me is they were trying to do is that there is this is my destiny kind of thing, because my parents did this, the sin of the children, and the children must make up for the sin of the parents. That's what I thought we were kind of going to get in the beginning. And when they brought in this thing with Jin and Yoko's mother, I was just like, okay, so let's see where this goes from there. But really, a couple of episodes later, they really just kind of forget about it. He still has this longing for the mother and all that. And even when they go to the subdimension to fight Messiah, her program is up there, but he doesn't really interact with her and stuff. It just seems like it was wasted potential. There was something they could have done with that character, with that backstory, but they didn't capitalize on it. I'm really disappointed about that. Because, geez, if he was Yoko's mother, how cool would that be? What kind of story potentials would you have for the father who was never there because he didn't want to be and then he couldn't be? That would have been really good. But that's just me rewriting the series. But I really thought that was kind of the direction they were going to go, or at least something similar in that direction. So I'm really upset that we didn't get anything close to that, basically. So now next is Stagbuster, Jay, and he's a buddy roid, except now this is what bothers me about Go Buster, and this happens frequently within a lot of the Sentais, is that you have a predetermined set of rules where everything's kind of like organized neatly into boxes. And then something comes along which kind of like throws that out of proportion. And let me give you an example. Like, okay, so in Power Rangers, when we first started, they were just colors. Red, blue, green, yellow, black, white, all that stuff. And then along the line, we got characters like Magna Defender, Phantom Ranger, Titanium Ranger, Quantum Ranger, Crimson Thunder. You have all these Rangers that don't fit into those prearranged boxes. And it's really hard to classify them and get a certain pattern down. Because for a while, you do have certain patterns that start to emerge. What Jay does is similar to, kind of what I'm talking about. And here's what I mean. Each Ranger has a Buddy Roid. Each Buddy Roid is necessary in order to pilot that Zord. And without that Buddy Roid, the Zord can't be piloted. And as we find out throughout later in the series, the Buddy Roids can actually pilot the Zords by themselves, which makes me wonder why the Rangers are even necessary, but that's a discussion for another time. Jay himself becomes a Ranger. Now, the way it's described, and it's not really described in the series, but in like extra materials and from what I was telling people, is that basically Jay's golden armor becomes the Ranger suit for Jin, and under his golden armor is a Ranger form. That the Ranger form is his true form and not his Buddy Roid mechanical form. And further, neither Jay nor Jin need Buddy Roids to pilot their Zords, which are separate from the Power Ranger Zords, or the Go Buster Zords, excuse me. So why did you introduce the concept of the Buddy Roids if with the next two Rangers, you're going to completely abandon that concept to come up with something new? And I know it's usually it's part of the series. it's a necessary evil, basically. But I mean, look at Kyoryuja, for example. What I like about Kyoryuja is each Ranger has their own battery, has their own Zord to go ahead and pilot. It's even, it makes sense, and everybody's kind of equal in that regard. But Jay and Jin, they break the mold. And while that is good at times, there is no pattern. It seems very chaotic to me, and that's a little bothersome. I know I'm nitpicking on this little point right there, but I do find it odd that he's the. I mean, basically, up until again the final few episodes, Jay's the only Butteroid that fights, and that's something that also bothers me when we look back at the Butteroids. Is that Cheetah Nick can fight. He's got like a wheel gun basically in which he can fight. Jay can go ahead and fight whether he's morphed or not. Goroseki, despite being a giant gorilla robot, doesn't fight, and the rabbit can't do anything. He's like just on wheels. He can't really do anything. So I find it odd that the Gold Rangers and the Red Rangers Butteroids can fight in battle. One can become a ranger, and yet the other two Butteroids don't do jack, basically. And Jay doesn't even turn into a vehicle. So it seems like they keep changing the rules in a way, or it's at least in a state of flux. And again, how is it that, again, if it's true what they're saying, and again, please tell me if this is inaccurate or something, but because we see the golden pieces fly off of Jay and go on to Jin to become his ranger suit, why would he be a ranger underneath? And then if he is a ranger underneath, what happens when he takes off the helmet? Or is that his head? And furthermore, when he dies, why is he not in his true form and the basically morphed form? It's almost backwards. I don't know. It really kind of confuses me. I like the character, although the whole stop blocking me thing, that got annoying pretty quick. I didn't particularly appreciate that. And I don't get his whole thing about give me Intron, keep giving me stuff to drink. That really kind of bothered me because I was like, so are you constantly running on empty or something like that? Or I don't know. It was just kind of weird. But for a gold and silver ranger, good designs. That was kind of interesting. I really like their Zords, except I don't understand why they turn into bugs all of like 2 or 3 episodes and then never turn into bugs again. But that's true of any series. Like, yeah, we introduced this alternate form or this animal form, but we're always going to be in Megazord form. And that's something that always kind of bothered me.